So customer validation is that process that you always hear about where people talk about whether or not they're going to pivot. There was also a great clip in Silicon Valley about we need to pivot, and that was what prompted all of that customer investigation. But really, the challenge for companies is they have a great idea, but they really have a hard time finding the customer for it, let alone finding the customer with money they'll part with. So the customer validation process really is trying to understand if I put this product out on the market, will people adopt it? And if they adopt it, how will they adopt it? Because the business model I put around it has to go along with what I see as the behavioral model of my customers. How often do they use it? That's going to trigger how I should think about whether or not it's a recurring model or a transactional model. Is it something that people want to pay for, or is it something that they expect from a certain deliverable or a platform? Is it really a feature, or is it a product? And a great example of this is I'm currently on the board of directors of a startup in Seattle called Xantler, which makes a product called ShopPost. 4 years ago, I left Seattle to go work at Discovery in New York, and that company 4 years ago was called DIY Media, not Xantler. It was a completely different business in that it sold digital goods for independent artists and musicians. So something happened in those intervening 4 years that made them change their business. And what it was the customer validation cycle.
And they sold digital goods for artists and musicians.
Right, so they created an e-commerce platform that allowed them to package up a digital download and a physical good.
Got it.
For an independent artist. So if you were a local group with a band that sold t-shirts to also fund yourself, but you also wanted to sell digital downloads, they would power your site.
Got it.
They would power your site, and they would handle the fulfillment as well as the transaction for you. But it turned out there was no place to grow that business because most of the people who already had commerce didn't want to take on a platform that was a different way of handling transactions. It would actually more overhead than possible for them as a small independent to handle. So what they had to pivot was in understanding their customer. The customer was actually looking for the service, but not necessarily the e-commerce platform. So handling the transaction was commoditized. It was what you did with that content to promote it and to sell online that was really their secret sauce.